Do you ever wonder why your neighbor seems to grow massive, vibrant vegetables with zero effort, while your plants barely survive the spring? What if I told you that the secret to a perfect garden has nothing to do with expensive fertilizers and everything to do with looking up at the night sky? Welcome back to the channel. Today we are diving deep into the April 2026 lunar planting calendar. I'm going to show you exactly which days will guarantee explosive growth for your plants and which days are guaranteed to doom your seeds to rot in the soil. Prepare to be amazed because we are going to debunk some massive gardening myths today. You might think that planting on a sunny weekend is the best strategy, but ignoring the moon phases is the biggest mistake you can make. By the end of this video, you will have the ultimate day-by-day blueprint for April 2026. Let us find out what the moon is trying to tell us. Do you think gardening by the moon is a real science or just an old wives' tale? Let me know your thoughts in the comments right now. Before we get to the exact dates for April 2026, we need to understand how this ancient system actually works. For thousands of years, long before modern agricultural science existed, farmers relied entirely on the moon to feed their families. From the ancient Babylonians to the Native Americans, planting by the lunar phases was a matter of survival. The concept is wonderfully simple, but scientifically profound. Just as the gravitational pull of the moon controls the massive ocean tides, it also affects the subtle moisture levels in the soil and the sap flowing within the plants themselves. When the moon is growing larger, or waxing, it pulls moisture upward. When it is shrinking, or waning, the energy shifts downward into the roots. Today, we are combining this ancient wisdom with modern gardening techniques to give you an unfair advantage this spring. Let us break down the month of April into specific, actionable steps so you can plan your ultimate garden. Let us start by looking at the very beginning of the month. The first few days of April 2026 are going to be absolutely crucial for anyone who loves growing leafy greens. During this time, the moon is in its waxing phase. This means the illuminated part of the moon is growing larger every single night. Now, what does this actually mean for your backyard? Well, think of the moon as a giant magnet that pulls on the water right there in your garden soil. As the moon grows, it literally pulls moisture up towards the surface of the earth. This makes it the absolute perfect time to plant crops that produce their harvest above the ground. I am talking about your crisp lettuces, your vibrant spinach, and those wonderful fresh herbs like basil and cilantro. Imagine walking out to your garden on a cool morning and snapping off a perfectly crisp, bright green lettuce leaf for your salad. That satisfying crunch is the result of proper hydration and timing. Many people believe the myth that soil moisture is only about how much you water. But the truth is, the lunar gravitational pull helps seeds swell and burst open much faster during these specific waxing days. So, grab your seed packets for anything green and leafy right at the start of the month. Moving just a bit further into the first week of April, we hit the prime window for planting your fruiting vegetables. We are talking about the heavy hitters of the summer garden, like tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. Around April 5th and 6th, the waxing moon moves into a highly fertile water sign in the astrological zodiac. This is when the upward pull of moisture is at its absolute peak. If you are transplanting tomato seedlings that you started indoors, this is the time to put them into the ground. Picture this for a moment. It is late July, and you are holding a massive, heavy, sun-ripened heirloom tomato in the palm of your hand. It smells like pure summer. That success story begins right here in early April. A very common gardening myth is that you should wait until the absolute hottest day of spring to plant tomatoes. But if you plant them during this specific lunar window, the rising sap will help the plant establish an incredibly strong main stem before the harsh summer heat even arrives. So if you want a bumper crop of peppers and tomatoes, Circle these days on your calendar in bright red ink. But what about the flowers in your garden? Around April 8th through the 10th, the moon is still waxing, but it transitions into an air sign. This creates a highly favorable environment for planting annual flowers and ornamental vines. This is the moment to think about the aesthetics of your yard and how you want to attract essential pollinators. Imagine your garden beds exploding with bright orange marigolds, towering sunflowers, and delicate sweet peas climbing up a wooden trellis. The buzzing of happy bees filling the air. Planting flowers during this specific phase encourages abundant, long-lasting blooms rather than just excessive leafy growth. Some people think that flowers do not care about the moon, but professional florists have used these lunar windows for centuries to guarantee larger blossoms. It is all about how the plant distributes its energy. During these days, the energy is rushing upward, straight into the buds. If you want a garden that looks like it belongs on the cover of a magazine, do your floral planting during this mid-waxing phase. Now, we need to talk about one of the most critical periods of the entire month. As we approach the middle of April, the moon reaches its full, completely illuminated phase. The full moon is incredibly powerful, but it is also a time of extreme tension in the natural world. The gravitational pull is at its absolute maximum, and the water table in your soil is as high as it will ever be. You might think this is a great time to plant, but you would be wrong. This is the time to put your shovel away. Imagine a sponge that is completely soaked with water. If you try to force seeds into the ground now, especially in heavy clay soils, they are highly likely to rot before they ever get the chance to sprout. The myth that a bright moonlit night is perfect for midnight gardening is romantic, but practically, it is a disaster. Instead of planting, use the full moon phase to step back and admire your hard work. Pour yourself a glass of iced tea, walk through your garden, and take notes. The full moon is a time of rest for the gardener, while the plants absorb the intense lunar energy. Immediately after the full moon passes, we enter the waning phase. The light of the moon begins to slowly decrease night by night. This is where the magic happens for an entirely different group of plants. The energy and moisture that was being pulled up into the leaves is now retreating downwards, deep into the earth. From April 16th to the 18th, you have your golden opportunity to plant root crops. I am talking about carrots, beets, radishes, and turnips. Think about the feeling of gripping the green tops of a carrot and pulling it from the soft, dark soil. You brush off the dirt to reveal a perfectly straight, bright orange vegetable. That perfect shape happens because the downward lunar energy encourages the roots to push deep and straight into the soil. If you plant carrots during the waxing moon, you often get hairy, split, or strange-looking roots because the plant was trying to push energy upward instead. So, strictly reserve this waning period for anything that yields its harvest hidden beneath the surface of the soil. Let us stick with the waning moon for a moment, because around April 20th, we hit the absolute best time for planting potatoes and onions. These are staple crops that require a lot of underground energy to form large, starchy tubers and thick bulbs. Planting them as the lunar light decreases ensures that they focus all their growing power below ground. Imagine digging up a hill of potatoes later in the year, unearthing dozens of golden, perfect potatoes like buried treasure in your own backyard. That is the result of proper lunar timing. There is a persistent myth that you should plant potatoes on Good Friday, regardless of the moon phase. While traditions are fun, the actual science of lunar gravity shows that planting during the waning moon yields significantly larger harvests and potatoes that store much longer in your pantry over the winter. The downward pull helps the tubers settle securely into the soil, protecting them from unexpected late spring frosts. But planting is not the only thing you need to worry about in April. Let us talk about garden maintenance, specifically weed control. Weeding is every gardener's least favorite chore, but the lunar calendar can actually make it much easier. During the late waning phase, around April 22nd to the 24th, the moon is shrinking towards darkness. Because the vital energy in the plants is localized in the roots, this is the absolute worst time for plant growth. And that means it is the best time to destroy weeds. Imagine grabbing a stubborn dandelion by the base and pulling it. Instead of snapping off at the stem, the entire long taproot slides easily out of the earth. Because the weed is not actively pushing energy upward, it cannot recover from being uprooted. If you weed during the waxing moon, the weeds will often sprout right back in a matter of days. By timing your weeding to the late waning moon, you will save yourself hours of back-breaking work throughout the rest of the spring. This same principle applies to pruning your trees and shrubs. The late days of April, right before the new moon, are your window for shaping up your perennial plants. Because the sap is pulled down into the root system, cutting branches now will not cause the plant to bleed out its vital fluids. Think about a beautiful apple tree in your yard. If you prune away the dead or crossing branches now, the cuts will heal quickly and cleanly. The tree will not suffer from shock. A massive myth in gardening is that you can prune whenever you have free time. If you heavily prune a tree during the waxing moon when sap is rising, it can literally drip sap for days, attracting pests and diseases to the open wounds. By waiting for this specific waning window in late April, you are acting like a skilled surgeon, ensuring the long-term health and structural integrity of your favorite trees and fruit-bearing shrubs. Now, let us discuss feeding your garden. Fertilizing is crucial in April as the soil warms up, but timing is everything. Around April 25th, while the energy is still pushing downward, it is the perfect time to apply solid, slow-release fertilizers and rich compost to your garden beds. Why? Because the downward gravitational pull will literally help draw the nutrients deeper into the soil profile, right where the root systems are eagerly waiting to absorb them. Picture yourself spreading rich, dark, earthy compost around the base of your plants. It smells like a damp forest floor. The lunar energy acts like an invisible hand, pushing those vital minerals down into the earth. If you apply solid fertilizers during a waxing moon, a lot of the nutrients can remain trapped on the surface, feeding the shallow weeds instead of your deep-rooted vegetables. So, use this time to dress your beds with compost, bone meal, or organic granular fertilizers. Pest control is another major battle in the spring garden. As April warms up, the bugs start waking up. But the lunar calendar has a trick for this, too. The final days of the waning moon, just before it goes completely dark, are considered barren days. This makes it the ideal time to apply organic pest treatments, like neem oil or diatomaceous earth. The reasoning here is fascinating. Because plant growth is basically paused, your crops are less stressed by the application of sprays or powders. Imagine looking closely at your cabbage leaves and seeing them perfectly whole, with absolutely no holes from caterpillars or slugs. By spraying during this resting phase, the treatments sit effectively on the leaves, creating a barrier. The myth is that you should spray as soon as you see a bug, but spraying during a high-energy waxing moon can sometimes burn the tender new growth of the plant. Timing your organic pest control to the barren days of late April gives you maximum protection with zero damage to the plants. This brings us to the dark of the moon, or the new moon phase, which occurs near the very end of April 2026. The night sky will be pitch black. Just like the full moon, the new moon is a day of total rest for the garden. The gravitational pull is completely balanced with the sun, meaning there is very little moisture movement in the soil. Seeds planted on the day of the new moon often sit dormant and are highly vulnerable to rotting or being eaten by birds and mice. Imagine a quiet, sleeping garden under a star-filled sky without a moon in sight. This is nature taking a deep breath. A lot of folks think that rain during a new moon is a magical sign to start planting, but you must resist the urge. Instead of planting, use this dark day to clean your gardening tools, organize your seed packets, or simply rest your body. The garden is sleeping, and you should take a break too, because the next phase is going to be incredibly busy. As soon as the new moon passes, we see the first tiny silver sliver of light in the sky. The cycle has officially restarted. This brings us to the very last days of April. The energy immediately shifts back to pushing upward. This is your second chance in the month to plant above-ground crops. If you missed the early April window, do not panic. The period right after the new moon is exceptionally good for fast-growing crops. We are talking about things like radishes, green onions, and baby spinach. These are plants that you want to grow quickly and harvest young. Imagine planting spinach seeds now, and in just a few short weeks, you are tossing a fresh garden salad with leaves you grew yourself. The renewed upward pull of the waxing moon acts like a turbocharger for seed germination. The myth that you only get one chance to plant in spring is totally false. The lunar cycle gives you multiple rhythms and windows. This late April window is perfect for succession planting, ensuring you have a continuous harvest all summer long. During this final waxing phase of April, you should also focus on crops that produce their yield on vines or poles. Beans, peas, and cucumbers thrive when planted as the moon's light begins to grow again. The upward energy encourages rapid vertical growth. Think about a delicate green pea tendril reaching out and wrapping tightly around a bamboo trellis. That reaching, climbing action is directly supported by the rising lunar energy. If you plant climbing vines during a waning moon, they often struggle to gain height and stay stunted near the ground. By aligning their planting with the new waxing phase at the end of April, you are practically guaranteeing a jungle of healthy climbing vines. So get those trellises set up and secure your poles, because the beans and peas you plant now are going to shoot for the sky. Let us take a slight detour and talk about something many gardeners forget: your indoor houseplants. The lunar calendar does not just stop at your back door, it affects the plants inside your home too. The late April waxing moon is the absolute best time to repot any houseplants that have outgrown their containers. Whether it is a giant monstera, a trailing pothos, or a delicate fern, repotting them now ensures they recover from root shock quickly. Imagine carefully lifting a root-bound plant from its old plastic nursery pot and giving it a beautiful, spacious new ceramic home with fresh, rich soil. Because the sap is rising, the plant will quickly send out new leaves to balance its new root space. A common myth is that indoor plants do not feel the seasons or the moon, but if you have ever had a houseplant inexplicably drop all its leaves after repotting, it was likely done during the wrong lunar phase. Give your indoor jungle a boost by timing your repotting to this late April waxing period. Watering strategies also need to shift as we move through the lunar calendar. In late April, as the moon begins to wax again, your plants are going to be incredibly thirsty. Because the lunar gravity is pulling water upwards and the spring sun is getting warmer, evaporation rates increase. This is the time to water deeply at the base of your plants. Imagine holding a watering can, pouring a steady stream of cool water onto the soil, watching it soak in immediately rather than pooling on the surface. During the waxing moon, plants absorb water incredibly fast to fuel their rapid leaf growth. The mistake many make is giving plants a light sprinkle every day. Instead, you need to provide deep, thorough soakings during the waxing phase so the roots have a massive reservoir to draw from as the moon pulls the moisture upward. Proper watering paired with lunar timing creates practically indestructible plants. What about fruit trees? If you are planning to add an apple, cherry, or peach tree to your property, April is a prime planting month. But you must use a hybrid approach. The physical planting of a young tree into the ground is best done during the waning moon. so the roots establish firmly in their new hole. But what about grafting? If you are a more advanced gardener who likes to graft new varieties onto existing fruit trees, you must do this during the waxing moon. The rising sap is absolutely necessary to heal the graft union and push life into the new scion wood. Imagine carefully taping a new branch onto an old tree trunk, and a few weeks later seeing tiny green buds explode from the grafted wood. This miracle of horticulture is heavily dependent on the upward flow of lunar energy. Mixing up these phases is why so many expensive fruit trees die in their first year. Roots need downward energy, but new branches need upward energy. Let us talk about companion planting under the lunar influence. April is the time to set up plant partnerships that will protect your garden all season. Planting basil next to your tomatoes or marigolds next to your cabbages is a classic strategy, but the trick is to plant the protective herbs and flowers during a specific water sign in the waxing phase. This ensures that the aromatic oils within the companion plants are as strong as possible. Imagine brushing your hand against a basil plant and having that intense, spicy, sweet aroma fill the air. That strong scent is what confuses pests and keeps them away from your precious vegetables. If you plant these aromatic herbs during a dry, barren lunar phase, their essential oils are often weak, and bugs will completely ignore them. By using the fertile waxing days of April, you are basically building a heavily scented fortress around your main crops. As we look at the entire month of April 2026, we have to consider the specific astrological signs the moon travels through. The moon changes signs roughly every 2.5 days. When the moon is in a water sign, like Cancer, Scorpio, or Pisces, the soil is exceptionally receptive to seeds. These are your powerhouse planting days. The moisture retention is fantastic. But when the moon enters a fire sign, like Aries, Leo, or Sagittarius, the environment becomes hot and barren. These are the days to avoid planting entirely. Imagine trying to start a delicate seed in a desert. That is what a fire sign feels like to a new plant. Instead of planting, use these fire sign days for harvesting early spring crops that you want to store, like early garlic or dried herbs, because the low moisture content prevents rotting. Understanding this rhythm between water and fire signs is the final key to unlocking the full potential of the lunar calendar. You might be wondering, what if the weather in April 2026 is terrible on a perfect lunar planting day? What if it is pouring rain or unexpectedly freezing? This is where common sense must partner with lunar wisdom. The lunar calendar tells you the best possible energetic conditions, but you still have to respect the physical weather. If a perfect waxing moon day falls on a day with a massive thunderstorm, do not go out and plant in the mud. Instead, use that day to start seeds indoors under grow lights. You still capture the upward lunar energy without exposing your plants to physical destruction. Imagine sitting in a warm, dry room, pressing tiny seeds into seed-starting trays while the rain hammers against the window. You are still perfectly aligned with the universe, but you are playing it smart. The lunar calendar is a guide, not a dictator. It works with nature, and you must too. As we wrap up the detailed actions for April, take a moment to look at your overall garden plan. By dividing your tasks into waxing and waning phases, you have actually created a highly efficient schedule that prevents burnout. You are no longer trying to do everything on a single Saturday afternoon. You have dedicated days for planting seeds, dedicated days for pulling weeds, and dedicated days for just resting. Imagine the profound sense of peace you will feel walking through a thriving, organized garden, knowing that you are working in absolute harmony with the same lunar cycles that have guided humanity for centuries. You are not fighting against nature anymore. You are riding its waves. This rhythm reduces stress for both you and your plants. Your garden will be healthier, your yields will be massive, and your time spent outdoors will be far more enjoyable. This is the true, hidden power of following the lunar planting calendar. So there you have it. The incredible, hidden truth about gardening is that it is not just about dirt, water, and sunlight. It is about timing. The moon in April 2026 is offering you a precise, day-by-day roadmap to the most explosive, healthy garden you have ever grown. From perfectly timing your juicy tomatoes during the waxing moon to pulling massive root vegetables during the waning moon, you now possess the knowledge of the ancients. The biggest plot twist in all of gardening is that doing less work at the right time produces far better results than doing hard work at the wrong time. Nature already has a perfect clock, and now you know how to read it. By following this guide, you will avoid the heartache of rotted seeds and stunted plants. Thank you so much for watching and spending your time with me today. If you are ready to completely transform your harvest this year, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button so you do not miss our May planting guide. Now, I want to hear from you. What is the very first thing you are going to plant this April? Drop your answers in the comments below, and let us get growing.